Good evening. Welcome to this month's meeting for the Baton Rouge
Hey, guys.
Astronomical Society.
Whatever I have.
And we started our meeting. Please, thank you, gentlemen. Anyway, this is our January meeting of the Baton Rouge Astronomical Society. I want to welcome you to it. And we have quite a few things going on that'll be covered after our speaker. Our speaker tonight is going to be Scott Cadwallader, and he's going to be talking about celestial events this year, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Scott?
Yep, we're just going to do a brief overview of the things I'm looking forward to in the sky in 23.
Okay, so you want to come around, Scott?
Yeah, let me start this thing up
Scott's
here.
behind the scenes because he's running our electronics here for us here, so he'll be here in a half a moment or two. Okay, so I do want to mention though that we do have some items here for our raffle tonight. We have a couple of books, things like that, and we will be ready to go here as soon as Scott comes around. There we go.
All right, I think we
Here
get
he
this.
comes now. So. Here's Scott.
Hey,
Here's Scott.
sorry about that. I
Great,
think we're
Scott.
still online and everything like that. So John called me up at some point last week and said, hey, we still don't have a speaker. Do you want to do something? I said, great, give me, I'll sit around for a couple of days. We'll come up with some talk on programming. He says, great. Just let me know what it is that you want to talk on so we can get it in a newsletter. You're now holding up a newsletter. So I said, well, gosh, okay, let's just do an overview of what we've got up in 2023. We'll just blow through that real quickly. It's January and nobody wants to have a very long meeting anyway, so this should take like 15, 20 minutes tops. And that's including all the commentary from people that want to talk about things they've seen in the past. So things to what to see in 23, just because I like writing because I'm a child. All right, so basic overview. Of course, the button works once and then not at all. The things we basically got down here, well, that did something. There we are. No, it worked. It's just like they split the tile between two of them. Or there's another one. Anyway, what I've got here is basically a list of when we have the oppositions and the greatest elongations of all the planets. We're going to go over some meteor showers.
Want me to do this scope for you?
No, it's fine. I got it. Meteor showers. We're going to look at the eclipses. Make mention of some occultation, and then we'll probably talk about the comets for a little while, just because the comets are like exciting. Especially right now, there's a really nice one that's coming around. It should be good towards the end of January and February. All right. This is what I've got for all the planets. Oh, that's what it was. This is actually a nice little diagram, of how the
How about turn the lights off?
yeah, if we can turn the lights up, we might get a better shot of this. Kill the light just over the screen. This is basically an explanation of what oppositions, elongations, and interior and secure conjunctions are, just in case this is your first time here. We're trying to, but John's trying to. Unfortunately, I went and because I'm clever, I thought, we'll just, instead of, there's no need to put this on a black screen. We'll put this on, this wonderful blue thing, which was the default setting from the PowerPoint when I was creating it. It was called Celestia. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. It's just blue. So this is the basic things that we've got in case you're wondering what we're talking about, like the conjunctions and all of that. If I can remember which one of these things turns on the laser pointer, which I'm sure will just turn off the computer. You can see up there at the top, you've got a conjunction. The idea being is that if this is the path that Earth is taking around, this is the sun, the outer ring would represent the movement of the outer planets, the inner ring represents the movement of the inner planets. So for example, when the Earth is in a position right about here, and the outer planet is in a position right up there, you get what's called a conjunction, and that's when the planet is going to be the brightest and the most brilliant for the year. That's the time when we want to go look at these planets. No, excuse me.
That's opposition.
I'm got everything back down. Opposition is, of course, Sun, Earth, planet. That's going to be your opposition, and then you've got your ordering Mercury's western and eastern quadrature there, which is just the furthest to the east and the west that it gets in the night sky. The conjunction is when it's in a straight line directly behind the sun. This is easy enough terminology. If I actually read the slide I put together, I was in the right way. Now, the opposite for the inner planets, the terminology changes around just a little bit. You've got what we call inferior conjunction and superior conjunction. The conjunction is just when it's in a straight line with the sun, and the sun is directly, you get Earth, planet, and sun in some way. Superior conjunction far side. The greatest elongation on either side, either furthest to the west or furthest to the east, are going to be the times to see the inferior, or the inferior planets, I should call them. All right. And there's some more math there because math is not great. So this is applying that. We have types of things that we're going to see for the rest of the year is going to be these particular things. For Mercury, you're going to have the 6 elongations. It's a very quick planet. It moves around in, what is it? I think 3 months to make a complete orbit around the sun. Starting off with April 11th is going to be the next one coming up. And that's going to be in the evening time. Mercury's, or that doesn't seem right. No, that's right. January is the next one coming up. That's going to be in the morning, followed by in April. It's going to be in the evening, August, December, and then in the morning in May and September. You notice that just for the sake of, well, isn't that something fun? You'll see that the time between the eastern elongation and the western elongation is a lot shorter than the difference between the western elongation and the eastern elongation. And this is pretty simple, and I thought, wow, that's some great math when you sit around thinking about it. It's because it takes a lot less time to pass from here, in front of the Earth, to here than it does from there all the way around the backside of the sun over here. It's like, that makes sense. So, of these, the 2 that I've got listed here, the one in the morning of January and September are going to be the ones that are the best viewing, and that's going to be at about 25 degrees up, so that's really pretty. You know, if you hold your hand in pretty towards the horizon, put your little finger on the bottom and put your thumb up, that's about where the height is going to be, about the horizon, right at dawn. So the idea is to try and get the greatest separation from the sun for Mercury and Venus. In the evening sky, the August 9th appearance is going to be the one that's going to be the greatest separation from the sun, so that's going to be a nice 27 degrees up. Venus is going to have its entire venue coming through today. It had its superior conjunction, which is, going back to the diagram before, all the way when it's on the far side of the sun there, back in October of 22. It's going to have its greatest elongation to the east on the 4th of June. That's going to be when it's highest up in the sky. I think it's going to be about 45 degrees up. And then inferior conjunction, which is, again, passing between us, and somewhere around August 13th, followed by the 23rd in the morning. The greatest elongation is going to be October 23rd, going to the nice superior conjunction on June 4th, and the entire process repeats itself. Mars, which we've been enjoying, just hit opposition sometime back in October. And so it's the next opposition for Mars is going to be 2 years out, so we're going to lose Mars for a while. Luckily, Mars is very, very slow, so we're going to be keeping him around for a good bit of the night sky for the next couple of months. Although, as was pointed out, he's going to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller as time goes by. That's, having been said, he'll still be a very nice sight, especially for a moderate-sized telescope. 6 inches enough is going to give you a wonderful view for a good while. Coming up, the opposition of Jupiter on November 3rd. Saturn is on August 27th. Uranus is the 13th of November, and Neptune is on the 19th of September. Of these, the coolest thing to think about is how much difference there is between the Jupiter opposition of last year and the Jupiter opposition of this year, which Jupiter's opposition last year was sometime in the first part of October compared to the first part of November now, so it's very, very speedy. Versus Saturn was, I want to say, 14 days. And it was something like mid-August last year, and it'll be the end of August this year. So the opposition takes a lot longer for it to move around through our calendar. It doesn't move as fast when it's not. I guess it's the thing to walk away with. So, moving on, we got our list of the primary meteor showers. Actually, most of these guys are looking like the moon is going to be less than 20% in the night sky for all of the apparitions. So we'll have some really good chances for a lot of these meteor showers. The two that we always open the observatory for and invite the public to are the Perseids on the 13th of August and the Geminids on the 14th of December, both of which are really a good time as long as the clouds don't sock us in like they did last year, and pretty much every year except for the years when we have a full moon, which is just the way it works. The lyrics are supposed to actually be pretty good this year, and some people like the Taurids and the Leonids too. I think there was another talk of there being a nice little possibility of a good outbreak of one of the minor meteor showers at the end of November or the early part of December. I didn't list it because they always say this is the year for an outburst, and I'll believe it when we get closer to it. I say the same thing about comets, and then hopefully secretly hope that if I poo-poo it, then eventually it'll be the most spectacular thing ever, because that's my luck.
The problem with outbursts, many times you do get an outburst, but it won't be where you can see it. It'll be over in Europe, or it'll be in Asia someplace.
Well, I think my
Southern Hemisphere.
my favorite thing has always been the way astronomers talk about outbursts, and when the astronomers generally talk about the brightness of things, they're doing it from a period, a position of expertise. And generally, when astronomers have a position of expertise, they created that position of expertise by basically working in dark places. So they always, when they talk about it's going to be really bright this year, they usually mean from like a portal 2 location, which is going to be a far, far cry from our portal 5, portal 6 locations where we're in Baton Rouge, portal 8 or 9. So when they say you're going to have some really bright meteors come by, they mean if you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and the nearest light source is 150 miles away, not if you've got a lot of localized light pollution. A fine example of this was last spring. We were supposed to have a brand new meteor shower that was going to have, it could have been super exciting. It was in the middle of nowhere, no other even minor meteor showers were happening at the time. I can't remember which one it was. But we actually arranged, and the club said, hey, everybody meet out at the dark sky site, and we'll go sit around, we'll have a viewing party just in case. We had about 5 or 6 of us out there, and we watched it. And sure enough, we sat there for a couple of hours, and by the end of it, you could count how many there were, and there was a serious uptick. And it ended up being something like 60 or 70 over the course of 3 hours, which is not a meteor swarm. But if you were looking at this compared to sporadic meteors, where you would have only gotten like 3 or 4 in that same period, it was a very, very big uptick. The big problem was that most of these meteor showers, unlike something you'd imagine, watching an asteroid crash into the Earth and see all these wonderful fireballs, were tiny, tiny little grains of sand illuminating the night sky. So it's really cool from a technical point of view to go out there and watch the trail of this comet and getting a meteor shower. And yep, it was the outburst, but they were so dim that nobody in Baton Rouge saw one of them. I can almost guarantee you had to be out there sitting on the side of it, away from lights, looking in the right part of the sky, dark adapted, and being very, very patient the entire time. And that's usually what we talk about with meteor showers. And mind you, for the Geminids and the Perseids are known for bright meteors. You'll see those in the city pretty much at a fairly good rate. The Geminids are actually very, very wonderful. They're very fast, but they're sort of dim, but they're very, very frequent. Didn't pick the peak zenithal rates for either of them, but they're the Perseids are somewhere in the 150s per hour, and the Geminids are coming up on 200 meters per hour at the absolute peak. And the Perseids, of course, go on for a couple of weeks. So they just peak on I think they actually peak on the 13th and 14th, so it's every day.
You might want to mention the Olympics, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, there's a cycle of around, is it 33?
33 years, the next one will be about It'd be about 2030.
I mean,
about 2030 or
I saw
2031.
one where it filled the sky for about an hour.
That was in '98. That was pretty awesome. I was
And
getting
since-
minute counts of 15 to 20 per minute.
Was that like in December or November?
November. Yeah, it was in there 98 or 99. I don't remember the
Were
year.
we out at Idlewild back when the club used to go out there up in Clinton? Seems like we had a.
Back in the nineties, yeah, I think we were still doing it before they brought the drugs in.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you realize it's a farm research station?
Oh,
And what they did is, it was beautiful.
That
set.
used to be our dark sky side.
Not only that, but we had a warming room, a microwave to do stuff, or if you just want to heat up something. But one day,
this is
somebody, I
the
don't know who was
place
in
by
charge,
Clinton
but
that they
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
told, literally told, we couldn't come back anymore because they were bringing highly restricted drugs in. And we were first thinking, well, maybe it's for the people working on it. No, it was for the horses and the cows.
Yeah, they put in a security protocol that pretty much excluded us.
Oh, God, we'd have to have.
Well,
But I remember going out there.
members have a
Yeah, one-
notorious habit of approaching things where they need government clearance and saying, I'm not getting the government clearance for this, and then walking away.
When we had the, what was the name of that college? Hayataki? Did you go to that?
You might have been.
I went out there and,
Hell, off was.
yeah, Bob was great.
I'm not prepared to.
Yeah, but that had a high brightness, but it wasn't real big. But this comet, which I can barely say the name to, literally went a third across the sky. But you had to be where it was dark to be able to see it.
Yeah, it was quite
Like that.
exceptional.
No, it doesn't matter. So yeah, we'll come back to the comments. I was thinking the comments was the next slide.
Oh, I'm
but I think
sorry.
I must have left the eclipses the next slide. We've got no eclipses for 23. We probably won't have we have no lunar eclipses
Right.
for 2023. I want to say that the next one is 2025.
Yeah, 2025.
so
We get
we-
two of them in 2025.
Well, we got a little bit of a wait. We had something like 6 in the past 3 years. So yeah, we've had plenty of lunar eclipses. It actually got to the point where if it wasn't a total eclipse, I would just yawn it off and stay asleep. With the exception of the really deep partial eclipse that we had in November of 2021, which was actually really just a
Yeah.
brilliant year.
They look cool.
Yeah, that looked
They
really
look like
cool.
Mars with polar ice caps.
Yeah, and I actually got up for that one and then, rolled over, looked at it for about an hour, took some pictures, and went back to bed, and then I got up and had them operate on my knee the next morning, which may have been a bad idea, I don't know. But, yeah.
Hopefully they weren't up all night watching it.
No, they had all sorts of trouble going through. That's a great story, you'll ask me about it sometime. We do have one really cool annular solar eclipse that's coming up in October 14th. If you're in a position to travel, do travel. This thing is the ring of fire eclipse that you're going to get, where the moon passes at apogee,
Right.
at the apogee part of its orbit while the sun is at its perigee. So we're going to actually, closer to perigee. So the moon will be smaller than the surface of the sun, so you're going to get that wonderful ring of fire around it. So this is the type of eclipse that you're still going to need the filter in order to be able to see it. But it'll still look really, really cool to sit around and watch the thing move all the way across. And if you're a fan of watching eclipses, and even if you're not, they're really just fantastic.
And if you get under a tree, the rings, you'll see rings on the ground rather than crescents. It is really
I was thinking about going out to Lake Corpus Christi State Park in Texas for that. Would anybody be interested in maybe doing a club field trip or something over there?
I might be. I'm tentatively on the schedule for one of our favorite members. It is Melanie out in Albuquerque, New Mexico, runs the Rio Rancho Observatory. It's very kindly offered to
goes right
give me a
across
place.
Albuquerque.
And it also happens to be the Balloon Fest is hitting Albuquerque that same weekend. So
Oh, how
all the
cool.
hotel rooms are already completely booked up with it, but she's offered to give me a place to set
That'll
up
be
a tent
going
in her
right
backyard.
over the Texas Star Party.
Well, that would be pretty impressive too.
I don't think
Party
it,
getting in, it's
Well, I mean, it's in October, but yeah, over the ranch. Where they
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, if the ranch was open, that would be a great.
But there's another map that I saw. This place, you can find better maps at thegreatamericaneclipse.com. And this is, I want to say that they were listing this as a 7-minute eclipse, which is, wow, pretty nice in terms of.
Lake Corpus Christi is about an 8-hour drive from Baton Rouge, so it'd be one day over there, spend a day or two, and come back.
It would be worth it, and at the very least, it's good practice for the big show in 2024. And 2024 is the complete total solar eclipse, which is going to go the exact opposite way and get started over in Mexico and go somewhere else. I don't have a slide for that because this is my 2023.
4 minutes and 26 seconds of totality.
Don't quote to me the times. I went to. I'll go and I'll start talking again about 2016 and how much I hate clouds. The people on Facebook now have started a little turf war with the Cloud Appreciation Society, which I completely love. Yeah, John, what's up?
I was going to say that Great American Eclipse Center, a lot of it is written, the research is written by Fred Espenak, who's going to be a speaker at Alcon for us.
Right, and we're going to get all the details. I'm not going in the listing of the times will of course vary by where your location is on in the country and the world, really. But you can see it looks like we're going to get somewhere between 80 and 70% in Baton Rouge, which 75% would be, split the difference. That's pretty good coverage. So I'm sure that whoever's left in Baton Rouge will be mostly asked to come out here and help run the events because it'll get pretty crowded for anybody that's left around town. And it's also a lot easier to get here. Well,
Just
it'll be
Depends on the
depending on what the
traffic,
traffic is.
on the partial eclipse, I've only seen a couple, but the best one I've ever seen was, I think it was 81. You had to go out to the levee along the river.
84, May 10th, 84.
Is this the annual?
That was the annual.
I'm sorry, I was thinking it was 81, but
It
it's
was
84.
84, and you never had a complete ring. The Bailey's beads moved all the way
Well, one of
around.
our members at the time, Wayne Costry, who was also a very good photographer, went out there to the levee with Pontchartrain and a few of our members. I couldn't because I was captured by the school saying you can't leave because we're doing finals. So, but anyway, all I can tell you is that the absolutely beautiful from what I saw here in Baton Rouge. Fortunately, the finals got out right before the next one, but there they actually, a couple of members like Wayne actually caught prominences around the edge of the sun.
Wow.
It was that close to being a total eclipse.
The moon had to be 400 miles closer to the Earth than we would have had.
But it was enough to see it was enough to see prominences.
I was alive and
The
kicking
Bailey's
around
beads
and
and
looking at the sun at that time, but my mother was kind of superstitious and wouldn't let us go outside and look at the sun and, never stared. I think she tried to make us a
Banging pots of
or
rain under the sun.
yeah, that type of thing. And so, of course, I went outside, and being the child that I am, I decided that I was going to be, look at it anyway. And it didn't have any optics, of course, but oh no, I'll look out with the naked eye and assume that I'm blinding myself and feel the shame. It's fun.
Merrill has
I can still see in this eye.
Merrill has a fantastic story when he was coaching the soccer team, and they were down in South America, and an eclipse occurred right in the middle of the game. And he said, the people that he brought knew about eclipses. The other side ran for cover.
You got to admit, like I said, I did totality in Tennessee back in 2016. If you know it's coming, it's really cool. If you just wake up and have not heard a thing about it, it'll freak you out. All the animals lose their minds. Yeah, it's something.
I went to Aruba.
It goes crazy. Everything turns.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, oddly enough, there are different reports on the shade of color that people see right before totality, and everybody sees a different shade of color.
Yeah,
Like
98 in
some people do green,
Aruba,
some people do blues.
all the natives went inside.
Leather shade.
Nobody would look at it. It was really crazy.
Yeah, and that's basically how my mom was. Yeah. Right, come inside. The eclipse is coming. Yeah. That was a very rebellious little.
Well, our dear school board, anytime there's an eclipse, we'd always put out a warning to let the kids look. We cheated.
Yeah, it's like, if we had like even somebody that ever looked up in the sky, we had the scoutmaster there or somebody there, we would have been allowed. I didn't think it was a big deal.
I took a small scope to my daughter's school. She was in about the third or fourth grade at the time. And we projected an image for everybody to look at. That worked very nice.
So these are moving to the next thing, we've got a couple of lunar occultations. We have several lunar conjunctions that are going to be coming up, several beautiful conjunctions of the planets and the moon, but if it's not 100%, who cares? So I'm going to go ahead and skip it. People vary in what they call occultations anyway. Some of them are going to be pretty close. I wonder, Saturn and Venus are coming up later in the week. That's going to, or this week or next week. It's going to be pretty nice. But I've not included that. The big ones for our point of view are going to be Mars on the 31st and Jupiter on the 17th. The Jupiter on the 17th is going to be a tough hit. That's going to be happening early in the morning. We're not even sure we're going to be able to get it. Jupiter will be past its prime anyway, so it's going to be pretty far out. But Jupiter's usually pretty bright. If we've got good optics, you might be able to make that one, and that'll be a really pretty view. Although you won't be able to get the moons around Jupiter with it, so you're not going to get the full thing. This view of the Mars occulting on January 31st is going to be a good view. Mars is still bright, it's still fairly close, and we're going to be opening up the observatory here to the public on that night. Obviously, we can't have a private viewing like we did with the Mars closest approach, although, but what we're going to try and do to make sure everybody can see it is we're going to try and do things where we hook up cameras to the telescope so we can do live streaming from the scopes we have here on the screens around town, and then have people be able to march them through the eyepiece so they can get a view of what they're seeing and then shape the live screen. Probably projected, if not onto the screens here, then I'll tie Chris up and gag him and drag a projector out to the lawn outside and show it out there. Mostly a full moon, so should be pretty close. The exact timing on that is close to about 11 or 12 o'clock, I must say.
I was looking at the Jupiter one. About 15 degrees up or so, about 6 o'clock in the morning.
It's a tough one, but it's going to be early in the morning. It's right close to sunrise, so you're not going to get the full bright daylight.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fairly low on the horizon, so yeah, you're going to have to have a favorable position. I don't know, maybe if we got the dropout shutter finally fixed on the one upstairs.
Sunrise should be earlier since we're headed towards spring.
The what was that?
I said sunrise is going to be relatively earlier, probably as much as an hour earlier.
Yeah, you'll get the
Because-
first light a lot earlier.
Yeah,
because
it's,
that angle.
first off, it's on daylight savings time, so that tells you, we've passed, probably, what is it, June? We hit solstice, so.
Yeah, it'll be
April,
a little
May,
past it,
June.
and, well,
So it's
No, in
between
May.
the spring and
before.
summer.
We'll change the daylight savings in March or something.
March,
Yeah.
Just screws.
But anyway, that one's a tough maybe. That's sort of the challenge object. That's the one that gets me excited because I think I might be able to do it, and it's right at the threshold of no, I can't. So we'll find out. And if we can get that, what we're gonna practice trying to find Jupiter at that time of day in the couple of weeks in the week coming up to it, and if we can find Jupiter, it's like, well, if the Jupiter is in the view, then obviously we can get it with a mirror. Then it'll be pretty easy. Aside from that, we've got a couple of occultations of some really nice bright stars. In particular, there are several that are listed that are coming out. They're first magnitude. The brightest one is going to be Antares. And Antares, we're going to have that on 25th and 14th of October. It's going to have lunar occultations. And this is now going to continue on a series periodically every couple of months until somewhere in 2028. And if you've not watched the Moon Occult of Bright Star, it's worth it. It's really kind of cool, just at least for to see it and be like, well, just blinks out and then compare that to what happens when a planet drops behind it. It's kind of good stuff. Also, there are a couple of observing programs that are required. All right. So this is the big list of comments. And every year at the first of the year, people will tell you, we've got great comets coming up, and they'll list you a dozen things, and of course, none of them will work out. The famous phrase that keeps on coming around is comets are just like cats. They have a tail and do whatever they want. Which is always pretty great because I really like cats. Yeah, that's spot on. This guy here that we've got, the 22 E3 ZTF, is the one that's in the sky right now. This is the one that a lot of people are super excited about. It's already getting picked up by the local news, NPR, did a thing on it this morning, Sky and Telescope's talking about it. So this one's already somewhere at like magnitude 10 and dropping. So it's getting brighter and brighter in the night sky. It's already a binocular target. By the end of January, early February, after perihelion, when it comes out the other side, there is a lot of speculation that it will be a naked eye target from a dark sky side. So when it gets bright enough, we'll probably do the same thing that we did with Neowise a couple of years ago, where we invite the club out, pick a day, and say, hey, everybody, come on out to the levee, and we'll try and find it from the middle of nowhere.
Right now, I'd say, 4 a.m. east northeast.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is when these first come out, they're always morning comets. And like the one way I put it to another member of the club when we're talking about, well, it could be bright enough, and you're looking at the sensational headlines, like, well, damned if I'm gonna wake up for maybe. So I'll wait until it's an evening target, which we're not gonna have to wait that long. But like I said, by the end of January, it'll already be up in the night sky, literally. But and once it's up in the night sky, it'll just be up way late. So some of these other guys, Manschultz is getting some good talk now, and all of the rest of these are targets for the second half of the year. So the one that's really caught our eye right now is going to be this first guy. And that's pretty active as it's coming out. But you can see that, and if you look far enough out, and you just sort of play a scattergun approach, at least one of these other guys will probably do it by the end of the year. So other fun things, other news.
Before we move on, go back. Most of these comets probably can't even be seen with binoculars, but a C2022, they're saying you can see it now with a 57, 8 by 50 binoculars, if you know where to look.
So we've got two monocular stars coming up here. Oh, and I almost missed this guy here, is that just as a special note, it's comet 1P Halley reaches aphelion on the 9th of December, which means that for all of you people that are doing the math, it's gonna start making the long trip back towards the sun, and Halley's comet will show up somewhere around 2061 in our night sky, if you're still around. It's as I keep telling people, just wheel me out onto the front porch if I'm still around.
Well, my son was an infant. You can see how his
I think I did the calculations last
I brought him
year.
outside and said, yeah, I remember this, and you saw how he's common. I brought him in, so.
They'll have
So I tried to see it twice.
Like I said, at 61, like maybe I'll be pushing the late 80s, 90s. I think my family's longevity is somewhere in the 70s and 80s. So maybe I'll get there. I mean, if I eat right and exercise.
You heard Mark Twain, how he bragged about it, huh? You heard about Mark Twain's brag.
What's that?
He came in on the comet, this is talking about Halley's now, and he left, he was gonna leave on the comet. And son of a gun, he did die when it was passing through.
Yeah, my grandfather managed to die on his birthday. And like that, that was a sheer feat of will. That's kind of some people can pull it off, others can't. So the other kind of miscellaneous things that I think are kind of interesting that are coming up, the actual blue moon, the one that is the technical definition of the third blue moon in a season that has 4, which is normally a season has 3 blue moons, 1 per month, but occasionally because the list, you get a technical blue moon. Sky and Telescope famously fucked this up So Sky and Telescope famously messed this up back in the 70s or 80s by saying a blue moon was 2 full moons in a month, which is not the technical definition. That's the nouveau blue moon. But no, the true one is going to be on August 30th. Oddly enough, though, the really cool talk as to why why that was called the blue moon is everybody knows that every moon of the calendar year has a particular name. The wolf moon we just passed, the strawberry moon, and everything like that. Well, it turns out that if you do have this blue moon, this 4 moons in a particular month, you get a moon that doesn't have a name. So in order to keep the rest of the moons on track for the rest of the year, you have to put like a moon in there. And that's what the blue moon is. And so that we can just keep the naming going. And that's why it's the 3rd and not the 4th. All right. So, just as a thought, Sirius B, one of the objects around one of the companion stars orbiting Sirius is going to be at its greatest separation for the next couple of years. So if you've got an occulting bar or occulting eyepiece, you might be able to do pretty well with splitting it, probably better than you're going to get as a chance.
Do your Astronomical League double star program now.
Yep, do the double star program, and there's actually a new one that requires you to split Sirius, which is one of the ones they approved this last year. That was the local neighborhood.
But if you
has
send it
something
in-
where you have to either that or it's there was something that I saw that required splitting Sirius on it.
I'm gonna have to go back to my notes, but I've said this before and I'll say it again just because he made me so mad.
Don't we're online and you're on the record. Don't say that.
I'm on the record with the AL. with guys.
I mentioned that to David Prosper, and he's like, ooh, no. Don't say
What
that.
is the separation for
It's something like it's 2 minutes or something. It's
2 minutes?
2 seconds. It's like 2 seconds.
No,
I mean, it's gonna
Yeah,
be hard seconds.
If
probably
you
still.
can come up with it, it'll be there's
Can you see it in 6 inch?
you can probably see it in a 6 inch, but like I said, you're gonna want the cutting bar.
So when is that?
Series will fit very out. It's ongoing now. It's just going to go for the next
Okay. Cool.
2 or 3 years.
May give it a shot.
But it's coming off of the greatest separation. It's getting closer and tighter and tighter.
So it's one thing, like with double stars, assuming they're brighter, it's one of the few things you can do inside the city limits and still enjoy some astronomy is do some double star observing. The question becomes, are you gonna get that level of fulfillment by looking at 2 dots? And so everybody's different. And so there's just one of the other things that amateur astronomers look
If
at.
they got different colors, people.
Different colors, yes,
And
so.
there's like if you get depending on how nerdy you get, the idea of trying to trace the movement of the star in its position and actually draw out its orbit over time. And
Yep,
if you live long enough and you look at it long enough, you can actually think about, wow, stars orbit one another just like planets orbit our star, and you can nerd out that way and pat yourself on the back and die over. It's fine.
Ormo is probably the one to look at.
But
What's up, John?
one of our members years ago was president of the club, was also an expert on double stars, came up with a new method of measuring double stars by diffraction. And his name was Mark Stockman. But he actually got the attention of LSU with this method he came up with.
I want to say that's the using I've heard of that in various places. I've not really contextualized it. John, what you got?
Say, I'm just saying that in my observing notes, when I do have the information on it, I put down the position angle of the stars when it's double or triple. I try to put the position angles in there so it's easier to find.
Yep. So if you're viewing through the scope and you see it at 10 degrees and it's listed as 7 degrees, obviously you know you're mistaken and that's not the star you're looking at. Right, John? All right. The last 2 things, solar cycle 25 is really up and running. I've heard some people say that it's actually peaking so quickly that we're exceeding the estimates, and some people are starting to whisper that, well, maybe the solar peak is going to be in 2023. It's supposed to be somewhere in 2025. But as is, if you've done a lot of solar observing and you've watched the increase of sunspots, and if you were lucky enough to get some H alpha stuff, we've had like 3 X-class flares in the past week. We've just, the M classes are ticking up too.
There's some good spots on there right now.
There's some awesome prominences, and even now, just watching the size and complexity of the sunspots, a lot of these FKCs are working their way through. So this is definitely the time to get into solar viewing. If you need some help with solar viewing, of course, come talk to us and we'll get you started. And then oddly enough, one of these really cool little trivia bits is Callisto is in a non-occulting year. And I don't know if that's exactly the right terminology from that, but it turns out that if you got Jupiter at an angle like this, and of course you got all the moons of Jupiter running around, occasionally our position looking at Jupiter, from our point of view, Callisto will just completely miss Jupiter for its entire orbit, so you can watch Callisto fly around for a complete cycle, and that's what we're running into for this year. Which is kind of, like, again, this is one of these super nerd things that it's like, yeah, that'd be really fun. Especially if you're charting it down, taking pictures every night. So, this is, and I've got a link to this coming up, this is the at-a-glance calendar of just looking at what's going on this week. Hey, is there anything coming up? Yep, it turns out there's a meteor shower here, or there's an application going on over there. Really, really easy. I've got a link to where you can download.
Use up way too much ink.
Yeah, well, it turns out you can also just download the JPG and save it to your phone, which is pretty useful. And this is, of course, the moon calendar. If you go online, you can buy this for like $30, and it'll be good for a year. Again, it's not telescope chimps of the art. They give it to us for free, including the listing of the eclipse there. And I believe there's probably another occultation somewhere. Or yeah, there's a solar eclipse that we're not going to be able to see. They included it because they're an international magazine. And then, all right, so these are the links I was using just for more information. Anybody's interested, I'll take you other places. Big help came from the Universe Today article, which went through and basically listed everything here and gave good detail. But not everybody likes to read. And of course, Scott Cadwallader, the Great American Eclipse, and that's part of the calendars there.
Although I would say if you do intend on reading, Universe Today is a good one to read.
What? Yeah,
I
the
would
Universe
say
Today
if you did choose to read, the Universe Today is a good one to go to.
I'm getting more and more sold on it. There are a couple of new places that I found that are really nice. The Astronomer's Telegram is really cool. That's where I found out about those. That they found 2 or 3 nova by now in Andromeda in the past couple of weeks, which is kind of cool. Not supernova, which would have been super exciting, but just regular old nova. And then there's another one that the AAS now has an RSS feed that you can download to your morning paper and read about whatever the pro astronomers are doing and thinking about nowadays.
Just for general information, Heavens Above is a very good website. You can get site-specific information.
And we've got lots of these really great websites, and really we need to go back onto the website and start updating some of our resources that in the links mentioned. Some of them are defunct and some are just great. But I think by now, it's like root beers. Everybody's got a favorite flavor, and even though there are really only 3 flavors, 3 national.
I was going to mention when you're showing the moon phase calendar, there's a real good app that I've been using for several years called Lunescope, LUNESCOPE. You download it on your phone and it shows you an entire month or whatever of moon phases and tells you moon rises.
Yeah, the one that I generally love to use is the app is that there was there's so many really great tools from this. It was originally, it's called the Polish Script Online program. It was originally designed by Meteor or something like that to help you pull it along the scope. And you pull it up and the big reticle is showing you where your Polish scope is and where you should align them.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's got a whole slew of wonderful, like at-a-glance astronomical calculators built into it and things like that. So you get pull down your lat long and all that shit stuff immediately. You can and then pull it through. It's got a complete lunar calendar, and then you go through, and it's like you want to figure out the limiting magnitude for your sky site based on the latest projection from your little based on your darkness and whatever the SQM meter is saying. It'll tell you exactly how deep. Yep, it's got that already figured out. In case you don't like doing logarithms.
There's a good website for observing the sun is spaceweather.com.
Spaceweather.com is there's a
Gong That's the one
The
I
Gong
use, that's my
alpha
cheat
site
sheet.
is awesome, but
Because that'll show you hydrogen alpha, and so, like, if I wanna set up my hydrogen alpha scope, instead of just setting it up and looking through the eyepiece, I'll check the site. If it looks like it's worth looking at,
Yeah.
yeah, it's.
I'll set it up.
But there's another one, the Space Weather has now got an app which does some
Yeah.
really great things that it'll actually give you real-time alerts, like if there's a flare going off,
Flare,
anywhere
blackouts.
and it's free. So it's like, yeah, and it'll show you exactly, it'll show you the sun, show you all the sunspots on it, and everything that's happening in each alpha and radio and all that stuff.
I think it's, forget the exact
Yeah,
number, but there is a very active sunspot,
Right.
and it's moving around again directly,
Yep.
like the barrel of a gun pointing right at the earth.
Yeah, that was the one we were talking, there was an X-rated, not an X-rated flare, a Class X flare that went off.
Not bad, like
Yeah, but it
that's
produces CME.
one.
Yeah, but it's the third one it's kicked off in a week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy is super active. Yeah, but I've got 2 alerts as I was walking in about more radio blackouts that are based off of this spot too. So yeah, it's like that. Like I said, this is becoming one of my favorite apps because you'll be just sitting there doing nothing, you'll get a buzz. I'm like, oh, what's set up now?
It's either 3182 or 3184.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
today's been
Just
crazy.
turn it off.
nobody needs to get in touch with me after midnight, so I just mute my phone. So I get no notification. The Pope could be, knocking on my front door and I knock on it.
Now, what are you gonna do if they happen to have an asteroid hit you, and you just got an hour, and you sleep through it?
I would not.
That'd be the
say
best
that.
thing to do.
Yeah, I'd say that's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
That's a win-win.
Just put me at ground zero and I'm worried.
Like, isn't that the dream to die in your sleep? Or to, die in the middle of the skydive? Either way. All right, I think that's all I've got. Any more questions, comments, concerns? I'd say criticisms, but I can't fit it. Well, it's okay.
You, on your mention about the curve for the sunspot cycle, spaceweather.com just mentioned that recently, and they had several suggestions. One was that the cycle, just like you said, would be early, or we could be headed toward a much higher cycle than we ever expected. And then somebody made a comment, says, or it might be a double peak.
Double peak would be nice. I like the idea of a super maximum as much as I'm kind of scared of what would happen during a super maximum. Because there are too many people around here that have told me horror stories, CMEs, and the Carrington events.
But by the time they turned around, because maximums and minimums have been trending down for a long, long time. It's about time.
Yeah, it'd be really nice. The last peak was kind of meh, and it was a while ago, and the last minimum was just like, wow.
Like, is it ever gonna come back?
Yeah, like we would go for 2 or 3 weeks at a time without a spawn.
The Carrington event, 1859, I believe, I might be wrong on the date, but actually occurred after the peak of the sunspots. Had already peaked and were headed down.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a bad one even when there's only a few.
So, I mean, you could have, well, sure, you could even have a real weird one, occur at minimum.
Well, the idea is you can still get stung by a bee if you're not hitting the nest with a stick. I'd still say that.
As we can say that really humans have very little control of space around us.
Anyway, I think that's it. Thank you for your time.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and shut off the live stream and let John thank the people for joining us and all that. Assuming that that's still actually running and I didn't
Thank
accidentally
you for
close it.
joining us here for this talk, and we're gonna shut our live stream off and continue on with our regular business now, as soon as Scott gets it.
All right, looks like we kept Trey and Meryl, so nice. Nope, we're not letting go of them. We're getting the live stream off, that's right.